Hello everyone, welcome back to the FPL Wire. This is Pras and this is my team selection video for Gameweek 23. As always, we will start with my previous week. Not a lot to discuss this week. I know people are very keen to talk about Liverpool picks, about Everton picks, but the theme for this podcast is going to be stay calm. If you can, roll your transfer. And also, if that's what you're after, I'll be rolling my transfer unless there's an injury. Because the theme is basically if your team looks good, then wait it out. So there's going to be a main podcast, which is going to be on Friday. We had to wait this week for various reasons. But I wanted to get this team selection video out tonight in case people want to have a quick look. But as I said, the theme is going to be keep calm. So my week before this, 55 points was actually really good, especially in context of the fact that Salah, Palmer, and Isak blanked, who were the main captains. So aside from their points didn't matter as much. So aside from that, I think Gordon was quite unlucky. He had a couple of chances cleared off the line. João Pedro had that goal disallowed. Chris Wood came in with the goal. So I got that benching decision right between Chris Wood and who was I debating between? No, Wood was always going to start. It was actually João Pedro and Sarr, so it didn't matter. Both blanked. And then Trent came in with his return, and then Robinson did better than other people who played, let's say, even a Hall or anyone else. So I think he was good. So good. Liverpool, Arsenal defense disappointed, but in the Champions League they keeping clean sheets, man. So I don't know. So up to now 12k, well 12.5k. And just one other thing as we talk about the background, I think a lot of people are in this position where they're basically straddling between ranks. So if you look at my season history, basically since game week 16 or even 15, my rank has moved from 25k to now 13k. So it's not a huge gain. And you keep seeing 1 week you gain, you go from 24 to 13, then you get a red arrow, you come back to 15. Then you gain, then you get a red arrow. I just wanted to basically say on this point that in this period, there were a lot of competing wildcards. There were a lot of things that were happening that I don't think people should be that bothered. I think if you're moving in the right direction generally, and I think if you will compare your game week 15, 16 to your rank now, if you're seeing the positive trajectory, I would say even if you're in the top million, I think it's, you're fine. There's no need to panic at all. There's no need to change the way you're playing. There's no chasing. I keep hearing people, look, if I don't do this, then what's the point? I'm chasing. But I think you're okay. Even for people in 2.5 million, man, I mean, stay patient, hope to get lucky. I know there's a little bit of harder, an uphill task for you to catch up on, but there is still a very long season to go. There's big swingy chips coming. There's the second wildcard coming. The assistant manager is the very huge swing. I think there's going to be again some divergence after the Liverpool double. So hang in there. That was basically the message here. And you might as well also have seen some team value gains. It's insane how the team value has grown this year. For me in particular, because I've gotten lucky at very important periods, gotten some gains out of Cunha, out of Isak, out of Salah. I've pretty much held Salah throughout. Even Haaland has sold at 15.4. So, of course, it comes with the luck, but most people should have fairly reasonable team value this year. And if you're working through the season with most of it without Haaland, I think money should not be a huge issue. It's always a problem. You always point one short of something, but it should not be a huge disadvantage. So a reminder on what's coming up. So basically, tonight, I'm recording this after the Europa League games. Spurs have won. This is actually halftime on the Man United game, so I do want to keep this to 15 minutes so I can go back and watch the second half. Actually, I'm lying. I want to go back and watch the Traitors. So basically, Europa League games are pretty much done. So we're into now game week 23, and we have had the double game week announcement. So this was the slide from last week where we were hoping to get the Liverpool double game week announcement. Now, next week, we could even get another double game week announcement, which could be the Spurs double game week, which is Spurs Fulham. Now, there's no guarantee that happens, but you can see here that game could happen in game week 25. There's another now issue. There's a storm going around the UK and another one. And let's say that means that the Liverpool-Ipswich game is postponed. Where does it fit? Again, Liverpool have a free midweek in game week 25. So people who are basically thinking about holding, one of the reasons that I will come to is basically that there is a possibility, we're talking 5-10%, right? It's not a lot. but there is a possibility that there's a double-double. And so I'm thinking, if my team looks okay this week, do I really need to triple up? Because if there's a double-double, I want Arne Slot for 24 and 25, for sure. So in that case, imagine if I've gotten a third Liverpool now, and then I'm basically saying, actually, you know what, I'm not going to get Arne Slot, even though you're getting a double-double. So I just feel that there is reason. I can see some teams that have gone there, but there's also reason to wait, especially if your team looks okay. Don't get FOMO. Don't get price rise FOMO. It's the worst kind of FOMO. So that's my view on the upcoming schedule. So next week could be an announcement, especially because now Spurs won tonight. Their midweeks in 24 and 25 are likely to be free as well, because they will finish in the top 8 of the group. So it's a possibility. Again, the weather postponement is a possibility. So that's that. Apart from that, nothing else. The big week is going to be between Game Week 24 and 25, but I've said it enough times that I'm not going to repeat it. We will have a much deeper chip strategy session in the main pod, as well as I'll talk about it in my team selection between Game Week 24 and 25. So rest assured. Coming to this week, look, I think some of the picks are obvious. Liverpool, if you have 2 or 3, it's great. I've talked about the fact that why you don't need to get a third if your team looks fine. Of course, if you have a third, you're in a great spot. They're the highest projected goals scored. They're the highest clean sheet odds. So it's not the end of the world if you've gone there. So don't read this as, don't you do it. I keep repeating, it is very team dependent if you should buy. And I'll talk about my team and why I think I should not buy a Gakpo or an Alisson or a Konate this week. Second is Spurs. Now, Solanke's out. Spurs, do score goals. They scored 3, but they keep conceding 2 as well. So Spurs-Leicester could be anything. We're looking at a 3-2 kind of game again, which is reflected in the odds. They have, 2.55 expected goals, but then in terms of conceded as well, they're pretty much, their clean sheet odds are poor, 29%. Then you have Newcastle, Arsenal, Man City, all around 2. So these are also, and Villa. So all decent. And then in terms of clean sheet odds, again, Arsenal is up here. This is one of the reasons why I'm going to hold. I know people will say, oh, Arsenal have been so disappointing. That's me, right? If you're listening to my content, I'm not going to just suddenly say Wolves away, they're going to concede. So for me, for example, Raya to Alisson is a move that I'm eyeing up. I don't need to do it this week. I can wait a week. What if there's an injury? What if something happens? Alisson still has 2 more games to play, maybe in the Champions League and definitely the league. Just wait it out. Maybe another option opens up. Diaz gets injured. Gakpo becomes amazing. Gakpo gets injured. Darwin Núñez becomes an option. There's always value to wait. So Liverpool, great. Clean sheet odds. Arsenal, good. And then after that, again, 40% and below, nothing much. Brighton, Villa, Newcastle, Spurs. Even up until Crystal Palace at 27%. It's all fine. Like Fulham is fine. So that's where we are for the week. These are the player projections. So I've now highlighted, I will try to do this to the extent that I do these team selection videos after the game projections are out. And this is basically my point. Now look at this in terms of my 8 attackers. So these are the ones I've highlighted. So Salah, Isak, everybody has. I have João Pedro and Palmer down there, but they're reasonable, right? They're above Nico Jackson, they're above a Rodgers. So João Pedro is very playable this week. I think Rodgers is very playable for people. Then Chris Wood is high here. He's humbled me a little bit. Like I was thinking of benching him for Sarr, but when I look at the market odds for Sarr are 0.27, Wood is 0.36. I just feel maybe just carry on. Then I think the next one to discuss is this guy, Bruno Fernandes. Again, disappointing. Man United keep disappointing, but he finds route to points. And so there's no harm in looking at him or holding him, but he's testing patience, right? There's Mbeumo right there. And when I'll talk about my paths in the future, Mbeumo's definitely up there when he plays Spurs next week. So whether that's Fernandes, whether that's Gordon or Sarr that makes way, one of them will definitely make way for Mbeumo next week. So when I look at this, basically I'm saying Gakpo is great. Gakpo is 0.58. But do I want to get Gakpo and then bench João Pedro? Do I want to get Gakpo and then bench Chris Wood? I don't know. I don't know if I want to do that. Or actually sell one of those two. So I'm just thinking this week, take the pen. Let's say Gakpo scores a brace. It is what it is, man. Like he's capable of it. So again, like I said, I can understand teams that are going there. People with Solanke, people who are, fed up with Jackson, who want to go there and that they see that as a viable route. But my attacking line, I don't know who I want to sell this week. I'm not sure. So I'm happy to wait and take in this additional information, taking into context the possibility of the assistant manager chip, taking into context the possibility of any injuries, finding out anything else. You just never know. So that brings me to my team. I will have Ryan Gabriel, the two combo that doesn't keep clean sheets, but we have them for X fun. Then you have Trent home to Ipswich. So we're going to talk about it in the pod, but I think the priority order is Salah, then Trent, then anyone else. This is why I'm less bothered about the third pick. People are fixated on the third pick. I think that's the lowest upside out of all the Liverpool picks. The top two upsides are Salah and Trent. If you have them, you can be a little bit structure dependent. You can be a little bit boring. I think the word, you're making boring moves, you're not chasing the upside, I think it's a little overplayed, man. Boring is fun. Boring is good. Boring gets points. So if you're in a position to chase upside with Gakpo, go for it. But if you're in a position where you have a weakness in your defense and you can get a Konate, you can get a Van Dijk, you can get an Alisson, don't get like FOMO for the sake of, that you want to be exciting. Then Salah captain, I don't think there's much to think about this week. Salah is higher in goal scoring odds. He's home. And I just think it's a no-brainer. Like people who want to chase with Isak, fair enough. But what I would say to you is you're taking on a midfielder with a striker. So let's say Salah gets a goal, 3 bonus, clean sheet, right? He's quite likely to, not quite likely, but it's possible. I'm not even being overly optimistic. 5 points for goal, 3 points for appearance plus clean sheet points. That's 8. Let's give him 2 bonus, 10-pointer. So for Isak, basically, he has to beat that, get a double return. Because even 1 goal is 4 plus 2 points plus 3 is 9. So to beat that, you have to get a double return. So he can do that, but so can Salah. So I would say this week, I wouldn't bother unless you're really, really desperate to chase and you have a feeling. And then the other case for me is, fine, Newcastle could go 7 goals, man. I've got Gordon and Isak. So I don't mind that. So for me, that's a done thing. And then nobody here I can see that I immediately need to take out. I don't need to take Raya out for Alisson. I don't need to take Robinson out for Konate. Now, I can't afford that, but I wouldn't do that anywhere just to bench Munoz. I don't want to take Gordon out for a Diaz, and I don't want to take João Pedro or Chris Wood out for a Gakpo. Not this week. Next week, we will see. That's the double. The other thing I have with Gakpo is just so that, look, people will say they get Ipswich. He gets Ipswich. He probably gets the double because, as people know, he plays the first game. Then he probably plays the second game with Spurs, which is the Carabao Cup. He misses Plymouth Argyle, and he probably plays, well, very likely plays the Everton away. What about Wolves, which is basically 4 days after? Then what about Man City after that? And you really want that Southampton at home fixture after that? What I mean is I want to get a guy who I don't worry about. I want to get a long-term Liverpool guy. Because you know what? I could end up not wildcarding before game week 33. And guess who doubles in game week 33? Liverpool again. Likely to, if they reach the Carabao Cup. So that's the thinking, that if we are going to keep these picks, might as well go for a long-term pick as an option value. You could very well wildcard before then, but why not go for a pick that is important? One other thing for specifically my team is it makes more sense for me to go Raya to Alisson, but then for that I need 1 more week of information if Fabianski is the number 1 keeper for West Ham. I've talked about this in the past. If Fabianski is dropped, that will change my path. I will not go Raya to Alisson, because that means that it's an issue, right? I won't have a keeper in game week 29 if Liverpool reach the Carabao Cup final. So it will change my path. It might mean that I keep Raya and I look for a Liverpool defender instead. I basically ditch an Everton option and other paths that could open up. So I won't talk about every single option, but all I'm saying is information is important. 1 more week of information always helps. What else? I think one thing to talk about next week is in terms of my path. What am I considering? 3 things are very likely to happen. So I have 3 free transfers right now, nothing in the bank. Next week I will have 4. I could make all 4 transfers. So one of the things, so why would I make 4 transfers? Because I have to get Mbeumo next week. He's home to Spurs, and I'm just not there to take punishment from a 50% Mbeumo when he's playing Spurs, and he's probably going to be 60%. It's not just about EO. He is an excellent pick going forward. So I'm ready to go for an Mbeumo. Whether that's for Bruno, whether that's for Gordon, whether that's for Sarr, TBD. I will definitely have a third Liverpool. So that's 2 transfers. and I'll probably have another Everton. So 3 transfers next week are pretty much confirmed. There is a scenario in which I have to make a fourth one just to enable these 3. So for example, I could do Raya to Alisson, I could do Robinson to Mikolenko, I could do Sar to Mbumo, and I could do Wood to DCL. All that is possible for free next week. Now, why would I sell Wood for DCL? It's to enable Sar to Mbumo. If I don't do Wood to DCL, I'll have to do Gordon to Mbumo. So then I'm thinking Gordon plus DCL, is that better than Wood plus Sar? I'm thinking maybe Gordon plus DCL is better. So I could do a fourth move. So what I'm trying to say is by waiting this week, I'm not really losing out in much. I could get more information and then make these 3-4 moves more effectively because it's huge. 4 moves is, we never used to do this in FPL. It's only possible this year. 4 moves for free. So I want to be very sure of what those 4 moves could be. It could involve Wood being out, Bruno being out, Gordon being out. I think I'm very sure that Robinson is going to go after this week. I'm quite sure that Raya could go if Alisson is an option. So this is where my head is at. But for this week, like I've said, I'm going to be saving free transfer. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you for liking the stream or liking the video if you do like the video, and join us for the main pod on Friday at 1:45 p.m. UK, and what is that? 7:15 India time. Yeah. All right. Excellent. Take care. See you soon.